Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to talk about building language and literacy skills in early years. Okay, when we talk about building, I love building with building blocks. Okay, so let me start with that. Okay, all right. Mhm. Okay, now there you go. So this is how we've come to building the language and literacy skills. See, we've taken listening and the speaking skills in the bottom, and on top of that we've taken sounds and letters. So there are two types of approaches basically when we start teaching English as a language to children. One is the top down approach, the second one is the bottom up approach. But when we are talking about building, whenever you go for construction, you start building from the basement. Okay, and the basement actually consists of the listening and the speaking skills, which are nothing but the communication skills, or you can talk about the it's a basic language, the receptive and the expressive language. On top of that, I have placed sounds and letters. Now let us try working on the literacy skills of a child in this approach. Okay, now when we are talking about listening and speaking skills, or the basic communication skills in a language, pictures play a very important role. And after pictures, stories and rhymes also play equally important role in building up a child's listening and spoken skills. So this is our hop, skip and jump, my mini alpha book. Okay, so let us have a look at this. Okay, first letter A. Okay, so there are many pictures. The teacher is supposed to introduce the pictures first to the child, and the teacher would introduce ant, axe, arrow, apple, alligator, apricot, astronaut, abacus, so on and so forth. After a day or two, after you've introduced the pictures to the children, then you can start by connecting these pictures to the children so that it makes sense. Okay, I'm going to tell you a small story, a story of an ant. Okay, there was an ant, and the name of the ant was Ambi. Okay, and this ant was very hungry, so it thought, okay, let me go and eat an apple. So it went and it started eating an apple. Okay, and there came an astronaut. This astronaut, he was playing with a small abacus in his hand, and suddenly he looked here and there, and he suddenly saw the apple. He thought, I'm hungry too, I would also like to eat that apple. So he aimed at the apple tree directly with an arrow, but he missed his aim. He thought for a while, and he thought, okay, if not an apple, why not cut the entire branch? So he went to the apple tree and started cutting the branch of the apple tree with an axe. Now the ant was very angry. He thought cutting trees is bad, right? So he thought, okay, he needs to be punished. It went to the astronaut, and immediately, what does an ant do when it's angry? It bit him, and the axe from his hands slipped, and it fell on his ankle, and he started shouting, ah, 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 ah. The ant felt so sorry, so it immediately called Annie the alligator, who can bring an ambulance. So Annie the alligator came in an ambulance and took the astronaut to the hospital. Now this is a lengthy story. You can cut it short just by saying you can introduce only the ant, apple and the astronaut, and slowly you can add arrow, and slowly you can add axe, etc., so on and so forth. Now once you have connected these dots, let us do a quick recap. What was the first picture that I introduced to you? Yes, it was Ambi the ant, and then the apple, then the astronaut who was playing with a abacus tool, so on and so forth. Now this page would make sense to the child because you have connected these things. You can also add apricot, as the astronaut was taken to the hospital. Doctor advised him to eat apricots and apples because an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? So you're just trying to connect the pictures to make sense to the child. And once the child is comfortable using all these pictures, let us go to the literacy skills book. Okay. In the literacy skills book, you again show the child the picture and ask the child to identify different things. The child would probably identify the ant, an apple, alligator, astronaut holding an abacus, so on and so forth. Once the child has done that, then you can start singing a rhyme. Ants on the apple, ah, ah, ah. Ants on the apple, ah, ah, ah. Ants on the apple, ah, ah, ah. Ah is the sound of A. Okay, you again show them the pictures. Axe, act. You can also show them the picture book again. And now the child will not look at the pictures, but the child will concentrate at the letter here, and you will say, because the first letter is highlighted in red color, okay, and you will start reading it. Ant, arrow, axe, apple, alligator, apricot, astronaut, abacus. Now generally we don't say ant, but why is it that I am saying act? I am trying to emphasize on the beginning sound, okay. And the child will also start noticing that the first letter or the first symbol has been highlighted, and once the child notices you are connecting the sound to the letter, and that is when you show the child A is the sound of A, right. That is how you come from listening, speaking through the pictures, the story and the rhyme, and then you come to the sound, and finally you come to the letters. Now, once you have introduced the letter A to the child, if you notice clearly, we have introduced the uppercase letter and the lowercase letter together. Uppercase and lowercase, or the big A and the small a together, whatever, whichever way you call it. Now, if you notice clearly, we have given box letters here. Now, most of the times the child might get confused between box letter and, because there are two strokes here, and two strokes there in case of box letter. So this is how a box letter looks like. Okay, so there is a possibility that the child can get confused between a box letter and the normal letter A. So I have taken a letter cutout, and you start showing the child. This is how you form letter A. Okay. Similarly, you make these things and keep them ready, and you can show them how letter B can be placed in the box letter B, so on and so forth. The child can do the matching activities before he actually does the tracing and coloring. Okay, now coming to the formation of these letters. As you show the child the letters, the more and more the child is looking at the letters. Now your next thing that you have to do is you have to start teaching the child the letter formation. Okay, so you can start giving a child a small car or a small toy vehicle or something, and you can ask the child to start playing this way. You can also add short liners or small rhymes along with this. See, you can put a dot here and make this as a highway and number them. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the child will know step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Now you can also add small rhymes to it, like pull down straight for capital E and add some shelves 1, 2, 3. We generally find children trying to form letter E especially. They are able to do the standing line properly. When it comes to adding the sleeping lines, they just keep on adding 1, 2, 3, 4 because the child does not actually know how many sleeping lines have to be added. So you can just add a simple rhyme, pull down straight for capital E and add some shelves 1, 2 and 3. Okay, so let's just give a quick recap to the sequence. We would first take the picture book, show the child the pictures, then connect the pictures in the form of a story, and then we start singing the letter rhymes. Okay, so we're just going to sing the rhymes now. Ants on the apple, ants on the apple, ants on the apple, is the sound of A. You can also show them the pictures. Now, balls are bouncing, balls are bouncing, balls are bouncing, is the sound of B. The uppercase and the lowercase letter together. You can also show the pictures. Okay. Caterpillar coughing, caterpillar coughing, caterpillar coughing, is the sound of C. Now, when I make this shape, when you look at it, the child will be able to see the shape of letter C. Okay. Dolls are dancing, dolls are dancing, dolls are dancing, is the sound of D. Now, why exactly is it that I'm showing this is when the child has to write letter D, the child will look at his hand this way and he'll know that he's supposed to make a curve first and then the standing line. Now, even for balls are bouncing, the child can do this. Balls are bouncing, we've done this, right? But instead you can also show this as an action so that the child does not get confused. When the child will look at his hand, he will know that he's supposed to write a standing line and a curve, and this makes letter D, B. And in case of D, he's supposed to make a curve and then the standing line. This makes the letter D. So this also helps in the letter formation. Okay. Now, elegant elephant, elegant elephant, elegant elephant, is the sound of E. 5 flamingos, 5 flamingos, 5 flamingos, is the sound of F. Now, if you have noticed, is a continuous sound, okay? And I'm not saying or f. It's not f or it's a continuous sound, okay? Now, goats are giggling, goats are giggling, goats are giggling, is the sound of G. Helicopter hovering, helicopter hovering, helicopter hovering, is the sound of H. Iguana itching, iguana itching, iguana itching, is the sound of I. Jelly beans jumping, see, if you remember for balls are bouncing, we've used this. Jelly beans jumping, you can use this, okay? Jelly beans jumping, jelly beans jumping, jelly beans jumping, is the sound of J. King kick the kettle. Now I cannot show you the kicking, but because I'm sitting, you can just do the action as if somebody's kicking, okay? King kick the kettle, king kick the kettle, king kick the kettle, is the sound of K. Lion licking lollipops, lion licking lollipops, lion licking lollipops, is the sound of L. Now, monkeys are munching, monkeys are munching, monkeys are munching, is the sound of M. Nuts in a nutshell, nuts in a nutshell, nuts in a nutshell, is the sound of N. Orange octopus, orange octopus, orange octopus, is the sound of O. Popcorn popping, popcorn popping, popcorn popping, is the sound of P. Now, the queen waiting quietly, quack, quack, quack. Queen waiting quietly, quack, quack, quack. Queen waiting quietly, quack, quack, quack. What is the sound of Q? Rats are running, rats are running, rats are running, is the sound of R. It's not R, it's is the sound of R. Sausages sizzling, sausages sizzling, sausages sizzling, is the sound of S. Tiger on tiptoes, tiger on tiptoes, tiger on tiptoes, is the sound of T. Up, up, umbrella, up, 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 umbrella, up, up, umbrella, up, is the sound of U. Violent volcanoes, violent volcanoes, violent volcanoes, is the sound of V. Now listen and notice the difference. Is a continuous sound, okay? Now, wibble wobble walrus, wah wah wah. Wibble wobble walrus, wah wah wah. Wibble wobble walrus, wah wah wah. What is the sound of W? Fox on a box, fox on a box, fox on a box, is the sound of X. Oh, the yak is yawning, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yak is yawning, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yak is yawning, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah is the sound of Y. Zigzag zebra, zzz. Zigzag zebra, zzz. Zigzag zebra, zzz. Z is the sound of Z. Now, you have introduced the sounds of all the letters, and if you notice, there are a certain letters that has a continuous sound. That is, M does not make the M sound, it makes M. N makes the sound N. This makes the sound Z. L makes the sound L. R makes the sound R. And S makes the sound S. And finally, V makes the sound V. And F makes the sound. So, these are the continuous sounds which we are going to discuss in detail a little later. V, S, R, L, Z, N, M. Now, once the children are clear with the rhymes and the sounds the letters make, and also the pictures and the stories, we have to give children more and more practice of connecting the pictures to the letters. You can zoom in here, you can show here. Now, you can make activities like this. So, I have placed P, M, S, B. Now what's this? What's this? Bird. Okay. Socks. Yeah. Mop. Lion. When we're talking about lion, where does it go? The child actually has to think. Lion. Is it lion? No. Lion? No. Lion? No. Lion? Yes. The child starts placing it there. Bell. Bells. Bell? No. Bell? No. So it goes here. Bell. Okay. Pumpkin. 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 You can show it here. Log. 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 Okay. Moon. Moon. Mop. Moon. Okay. Lock. So on and so forth. Okay, the child can put pencil, put pizza. The child can start playing such games. Once the child is able to connect the pictures to the letter, you can be rest assured that if you are going to give a worksheet asking the child to fill up the beginning sound, for example, if you give something like pumpkin, the child need not know the entire spelling of pumpkin. You give a child the picture of pumpkin and you give a blank, and you beside the blank you give UMPKIN. The child will be able to place the P there because the child knows the beginning sounds now. So you can give such games to children to play for the beginning sound practice. Now, we can also further give children simple activities like, matching activities, house, goat, cow, so on and so forth. So you can design such games for children where they do matching activities and you're giving them lots and lots of practice. So it's not just matching the picture to the letter. Even if you suddenly flash a particular letter to the child should be able to give its sound to you. Now, for example, if I flash this letter to the child and I ask him to identify, the child will identify this is letter D and it makes a sound D, D, D. Similarly, if I also give the sound to the child, for example, if I say, which letter makes the sound the child should be able to say letter M makes the sound Till now we have seen whether the child is able to identify the sound based on the letter. If you flash a letter at the child, if the child is able to identify a letter saying that this is A and it makes the sound A, or if you just give the sound to the child saying that which letter makes the sound S, and if the child is able to flash letter S at you, or if the child is able to sort all the pictures that come under one particular letter, etc., so you know that the child is good to go. Okay, and now you introduce vowels to the children. Okay, out of the 26 letters, you tell the children that A, E, I, O and U. These are called the vowels. Okay, and they make the sound A, E, O and A. Okay, these are the sounds that the vowels make. Now let us have a look at the consonants also. A quick recap. Okay, the continuous sounds, as I have already mentioned, n, z, l, s, and v. Can you show the letters, please? Yeah. Okay, so these are the letters that make continuous sound. Z, s, v. Okay. And if you look at these letters, they make an abrupt ending. G. It's not G, it's G. T. D. J. B. P. C or K. K. The K sound. So these are the letters with the schwa ending. It's called a schwa ending. It is generally a little difficult for children to blend these letters with a vowel. So any word that starts with G, it's difficult for the child to blend, or T, it's difficult for the child to blend. And these are called the tricky sounds. Wa, ya, and the qua. Okay, these are the tricky sounds. Okay, now it is always easier for a child to blend any continuous sound with a vowel. Now let us see how this works. If you ask a child to make ma, ma, the child is able to do it easily. Ga, if you give the child ga sound, g, a, g, a, g, a, the child will not be able to think. Or if you ask the child to join the letters, for example, G, A, P, and ask the child to read these things, ask the child to read G, A, P, the child will initially read it as g-ap, because the child will put a ending to the schwa sound, g. he will call g. So you have to make sure the child does not say g, instead he says g, a, ga, gap. So that is the difficulty area where you have to actually work the schwa ending letters. Okay, so gap. Man would be easier for the child to blend. If you ask the child to join M, A and N and ask the child to read it, he will be able to say man. So this is easier to blend because this has already got a continuation, but this ends abruptly. Okay, so you can make such shapes for each letter family, and you can give children practice. For example, net, pet, it ends abruptly, at. So you can give lots and lots of practice with these things. So these are all laminated, so whatever is drawn with the sketch, you can just wipe it off with a wet cloth. Okay, so this is E family, for I family, O family and U family. I have made a few examples wherein you can give blending practice. Now, as we go for blending, okay, you can slowly start giving children 3-letter words. These are otherwise called as CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant. So there's a consonant, a vowel in between, and a consonant at the ending. Okay, now here if you ask the child to start blending it, the child will start reading it as ran, mop, mop. Okay, rat. So these are all continuous sounds. But see, when I'm taking a letter with the schwa ending or the abrupt ending, g-et, the child will try to do that. So you have to say g-et. You have to concentrate on blending these things. Get. Okay, so child should be comfortable blending the first two sounds initially. Similarly, with an abrupt ending, jam. The faster he starts doing the sounds, the easier he'll be able to blend them. Now this is a tricky sound. M. Tricky sounds are a little tricky. The child will have a little more difficulty blending them because when we are talking about letters like H, it does not actually make the h sound, it just says so. Him. The child will have difficulty doing that. So you have to keep on giving the child practice of blending these words. Now, as you give practice of blending these CVC words, now you can slowly take the last two letters and start blending them like this and form 2-letter words or 2-letter sounds. Okay, now let us go with the A family words first. So we are going to look at the words with as ending: axe, app, at, am, ab, ad, ag, and am. Okay, let us look at the words that fall under these families. So when you are actually classifying them into word families, indirectly you are introducing the child to the rhyming words. So the child is The child is good with blending now. You're slowly introducing the child to rhyming words. So these are the words that come under the ab family. Then the ad family. The ag family. The am family. The an family. This is the as family. App family, so on and so forth. Now, when you're making such families and you ask the child to read, the child will start noticing the sounds because the child is already able to blend the words here. The child is able to say t, n. The child will start blending and reading them together. When he reads ban, can, fan, man, the child will slowly start noticing that there is a particular sound, repetition of sound in these words. The sound of an, ban, can, fan. And he'll also notice that similar sounding words have similar spelling. Ban, can, fan, they all have an in common. It's just the first letter that keeps on changing. So this is very important for us to show children the word family, so that the child will slowly start understanding what exactly rhyming words are. Similarly, you can do these things with the E, I, O, U families also. You can make such cards, and you can make them with A, E, I, O, U families also. Alright. Now, once the child knows the concept of rhyming words, then you can introduce the child to these rhyming wheels. The child knows that ab is constant, so it is jab, lab, nab, tab, cab, dab, so on and so forth. So when I'm moving it, it's just the first letter that's changing, and the child is able to blend faster. So I can make, you can make such wheels with different sounds like the I family words, sit, pit, fit, wit, bit, so on and so forth, and the O family words, U family words, etc. So once the child is good to go with the rhyming words, you can give the child more and more exercises like these, wherein I have given different spellings. The child is supposed to pick the odd one out. Now, if the child is not able to read, he's just going by spelling, this is where you will come to know. See, most of the times what happens is we as teachers, we teach phonics to the children. Once the child goes back home, parents they make sure the child by hearts the spelling, like CUB cub, TUB tub, RUB rub. Now what happens if a child also has a difficulty discriminating between b and d, and he does not go by the phonics approach? He'll get confused here, because cub, tub, rub, mud, hub. If he's able to read it, then he'll know that mud is a different sound and he'll be able to circle it. If the child is not reading it, child is just looking at the spelling, so this is a little confusing because I have given B and D. They are very similar, right? So you can give rhyming things like this, and this is when you are very sure that the child is able to read the 3-letter words, because you have given the rhyming words, you have given the word families, you have given the blending practice, with this and all that stuff. Now you can slowly introduce the sight words to the children. Sight words are the things, see, if you have noticed here, I have put 3 dots under this. So the child learns blending. So the child is saying out the individual sounds, and as I keep moving my finger faster and faster, the child starts blending these 3 sounds together to form a word, right? In. But here I haven't put any dots here, okay? And generally sight words do not follow any rules of phonics, and they have to be taught through flashcards. So every time I flash this to the child, I don't run my finger below it, but I just say me, to, etc. Okay, and every time I flash it, the child will slowly be able to identify that this word itself, the whole thing as one picture is how the child will recognize it. So he'll be able to say to, me. Okay, and once the child is able to do that, this is when you introduce reading to the children. Let me get rat. Okay, so you can give such reading practice pictures to the children so that they'll start reading. If you look here, bad rat, top dog. So once the child starts reading, the child will get the confidence again. See, let me, because me you have already introduced in the form of a sight word. So let me get rat, the child will be able to do the reading. Now this is the reading part of it. Most of us as teachers, we fail to understand, after giving so much of practice to the children with the CVC words, still when we say we are going to conduct a dictation, there will be many children who will not be able to write, though they are able to read from the board. If you give them any word like this, n, hen, the child is able to read this, but the next day when you ask the child to prepare for dictation, the child is not able to write the dictation. Where exactly is the problem? Now if you notice carefully, here you are showing the letters to the child, and you are asking the child to convert each letter to a sound and then blend them together to form a CVC word, right? To form a word. When you are giving dictation, you are already giving the child a word, and the child is not even looking at the word. The child is listening to the word. So something like hen. Now here the child is able to listen to a completed word, hen, and in his mind he is supposed to slice this word into individual sounds. Hen seems like, okay, the first sound is hen, he, ha. Okay, so this is a reverse method in which the child is working out from the letters, from the word to the sound. So okay, so the child will convert the sound to the letter now. Is okay, letter H. So the child will write letter H first, okay, and then he'll think N, e is the second sound it's making, so probably I have to write e, and then he has to think about the third sound in his mind, hen, so it's making the n ending, and then the child writes N. So writing always is based on the listening. The more listening practice you give children, the better the child will be able to write. The more visual practice you are giving to the children, the child is able to convert the letter to the sound, the child is able to read, right? So how do we give listening practice? Now for example, you can play a small game with children. You have to ask the children, you have to clap your hands whenever you hear the sound p. Okay, so teacher says parrot, children clap. Pen, pink, hen, no, there is no p sound in the beginning. So now the second time, let children concentrate. The child has to clap when there is a t ending, t at the end, t sound at the end. Okay, so now the child is actually carefully listening. Net, There's a t ending. Pet, pit, sit, six. No. So 6 is ending with a x sound, right? So you have to give more and more listening practice so that the children are very cautiously listening to the sounds. Once child is doing good with these things, then you can start giving children dictation. I have given a small game. Now here the child is supposed to look at the picture and write the beginning sound. See, for example, cat. So the child has to say the word cat to himself and think about the sound, the beginning sound. So it's cat. Okay. Apple. Okay. Apple. Apple. So the child is isolating or separating the beginning sound. Apple. Okay. So child will write here. Pencil. 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 So here I'm concentrating that the child has to say out the word to himself, listen to it, isolate the beginning sound. Now the child also has to blend these sounds now. P, app, 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 cap. The child has to come to the word cap. So here we are working both the ways. And now coming to the spoken skills, we can show such pictures to children and ask children to speak. Now the child might be able to identify dog, hut, rat, vet, tub, bun, bug, mat, sun. So this picture has many 3-letter words, and now you can ask the child to write those 3-letter words and place those papers here, so the child starts feeling confident about reading. So 10, men, hen, wet, so on and so forth. Bin, tin, nib, pin, cow, fox, box, hot, cab, tag, bag, dam, so on and so forth. So you can introduce such pictures. And as I insist more and more on pictures, you can give rhyming picture practice also. Log, okay, so this is cat. Cat and log, they do not rhyme, okay. So this is van, okay. Fan, van and fan, yes, they rhyme, so I'm going to match them. Van and fan. Now hat and cat, yes, they do rhyme. Dog, log. So even when you introduce 3-letter words, there's a lot of practice that has to be given to the children with the rhyming words, speaking the odd one out, blending them, because you need to really know whether the child is comfortable blending with the continuous sound or the schwa ending or not, and then making the word families, the rhyming words, wheel, the speaking skills, so on and so forth. We are done with the 3-letter words or the Cvc words. We have to go to the 4-letter words. So I always like to introduce the 4-letter words with the magic E. Now the children are already able to read this as man, hat, cap, etc. Now let's see what happens. Focus here. Okay. Now, and man. Okay, A says ah here. Whenever there's a E that comes at the end with its magic wand, this E pulls the A and it makes it long. So this is short now, and this becomes long, and the word becomes main. So this is no longer a, but it makes the sound a. So it just tells out its name. So this is main. Similarly, look here. The A, E pulls the vowel A. So the A sound becomes A here. So hat, hate. Cap becomes cape. So when a E comes at the ending, the magic E comes at the ending, the vowel in between, it makes a long vowel sound. So this is bit, otherwise just because a E has come at the end, this becomes bite. Similarly, pin becomes just because there's a E at the end, it becomes pine. Here you see it's kit. A E has come at the end, it becomes kite. Now let's see a few words with O. So this is nod. When a E comes, the O says out its name, or it makes a long vowel sound, so it becomes node. So it becomes node. Up. E has come, so this becomes cope. Rob. E comes at the end, so this becomes robe. Mutt. Mute. So this becomes a long vowel. Mute. Cub. Cube. Similarly, tub. Tube. So long vowel sounds are nothing but when the vowels say out their names, they're called the long vowel sounds. So the short vowel sounds are a, e, o, whereas the long vowel sounds are a, e, I, o, u. So it's as simple as that. So now we know why tub becomes tube when a e is added at the end. So this is called the magic E principle. Okay. Now, I generally like introducing the CK ending digraph. So that makes it easier for the children. So it's up to you teachers whether you want to introduce the CK end digraph before going ahead or not. So you just have to say whenever C and K they come together, they make the sound K. It's as simple as that. Now this is raw, rock. Neck. I'll tell you why introducing CK earlier helps children. A little later you will just understand. So this becomes pack. Sick. Sock. Back. So when you give so many examples, the child actually knows whenever there's CK at the end, they just have to pronounce it as K. I'm not going with the short, whether this makes the short vowel sound, the long vowel sound at present. I have just introduced the K sound. Okay. Now, after we have introduced the CVC words, we need to understand what happens if another consonant comes here. So we are going to go with the CCVC words now. Okay. So what are the sounds that these two letter combinations make is what we are going to look at. Okay. So I have taken a few examples where the first two letters are consonants. Okay, so let us try blending them. Okay. Stop. Slip, 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 slip. Okay. Flag, 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 flag. Okay. Clan, 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 clan. Okay. So what's happening is when I'm trying to blend four letters, the child is actually having a little bit of difficulty here because the child is otherwise very comfortable with the remaining three letters, lan, lan. But when another consonant is added before this, the child is getting a little uncomfortable. So in order to make this a little easier for the children, we are looking at these two letter combinations and how they can be spelled. Okay, and if you have noticed, we are saying out the sound of K and also together. So kl, kl. So we are blending them. Okay, so let us look at these two letter consonant blends. There are basically three types of blends that we are introducing now. They are the L blends, the R blends, and the S blends. Okay. Okay. Let's see what the L blends are. This is just like a shortcut formula to make it easier for the children. So the L blends are b, l, bl, cl, fl, gl, pl, sl. So these are the L blends. Okay. Now coming to the R blends. These are the R blends. Brr, per, ter, gr, per, ter, br, cr, dr, gr, gr, ter. So if you've noticed, we have one consonant that has got a continuous sound in all the blends. Similarly, we go with the S blends. S has a continuous sound, that's so it will be easier to blend. Sk, sp, st, sw, sk, sn. So we are looking at the L blends, R blends, and the S blends. Okay, to start with. Now, when introducing the L blends, let us look at a few examples with L blends now. As we have already introduced the th sound, the child can start forming black, clock, flock, pluck, slick, brick, crack, prick, trick, so on and so forth. So this would make the job a little easier for the teacher also to introduce the 4-letter words. After this, we have already made 2-letter words or 2 sounds together we have put. So let us see whether we'll be able to make a few words with these. Blot, clot, glot, slot, plot, plug, clap, flap, slap, clad, clan, plan, so it says brim and brag, brat, so on and so forth. Similarly here we have left out the S blends, okay. So spin, spit, spot, plug, snub, spat, so on and so forth. So with these 2-letter cards, letter cards that we have made, we can start making fun games. Through fun games we can start making 4-letter words. And we can also make letters with the magic E, like blade, B-L-A-D would become blad, and just because there's a magic E that would come at the end, it would become blade. For example, plat, plate, slate, so on and so forth. So slowly and eventually you can take the 4-letter words and you can make the 5-letter words also with a magic E. So this is how you make words with the blends. Now keeping this apart, because we always believe in pictures. So I have taken a few blends here. Let's see if we can make a few pictures. Okay. Treasure. We don't have tr here. room. Room. Yes, we do have room here. So I'm trying to make a flower. Oh, I got flower. So that's a flower. Okay, so let me try and make a flower here. Okay, I have glue. I don't have gl sound here. Okay, I have clock. Yes, I have CL here. Clock. Snail. I don't have snr. No, I have snr here. Snail. So I think I'll remove pl. Snail. Glasses. No, we don't have glue here. Bread goes here. Okay. Frog. No. Spoon. No. I have plane. So plur we have removed. Okay, but I'll try to keep it. Plant. Sponge. I have snake. So snake and snake. So we're trying to make flowers now. So this does not look clumsy. I'm moving out here. Let's just look at br. So we are trying to complete this flower. Bread, broom. So here again the child is listening for the sounds, and listening skills will help the child while he has to write. Okay. So these are a few things, few ways wherein pictures can be made. Now, okay, so when we're talking about the CCVC words, we spoke about blends. The L blends, the R blends and the S blends. But other than blends, there are something called digraphs. Digraphs. What exactly are these digraphs? Two consonants, they come together and they make a single sound. Now let us look at a few digraphs here. Okay. So C and H, when they come together, they don't make the sound kh, rather they make the sound ch. C and H, they make the sound ch. S and H, when they come together, they make the sound sh. T and H, when they come together, they make two types of sounds. One is th, the other one is the, th and the. Okay. P and H, when they come together, they make the sound f. Okay. So the difference between the F sound and the PH sound is it has got a break, and in that case, okay, these are the digraphs. With this digraphs also you can form words like, for example, chap and chat and chin. Etc. Similarly, ship, short, thin. With PH you can make phone with the magic E. PHON would be fawn, and you put E at the end, phone, etc. So this is how with digraphs, these are called the consonant digraphs, we can make words. Stop. Yeah, so we have seen the CCVC words. Now, what happens in this case if there are two vowels that come in between two consonants? Let's see. Let us look at the vowel combinations. A and E, when they come together, okay, let us look at these vowel combinations. So there is a general rule that says when two vowels walk together, the first one does the talking. Any two vowels that walk together, the first one does the talking. So what do I mean by saying the first one does the talking? It makes its long vowel sound. Okay, so A and I, when they come together, they make the sound A. E and A, when they come together, they make the sound E. Similarly, I and E make the sound I. O and A, O. U and E, they make the sound U. Okay. Now, let us look at examples. Ch, A, M. So, this becomes chain. Train. Okay. Eat. Seat. I and E. Tie. Lie. Pie. Die. O. O and A, they make the sound O. So, boat. Loan. Goat. Float. Road. Right. Due. Sue. So they make the sound U. So these are a few examples of the long vowel sound. Now, after we've done so many sounds, the long vowel sounds, the magic E rule, and the digraphs, the consonant digraphs, the blends, let us just quickly check whether the child would be able to read a few words. Yes. Visit. 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 I'm sure the child will be able to read this. Ure. Now, why is it that I'm calling this as ure? Because of the magic E. This would have been per. Okay, because of the E pulls the U here, so this becomes U, pure. Similarly, cure. Exit. In. Chain. Jacket. Secure. So the more and more practice that you give to the children, so och, poach, the more and the more practice that you give children, the child will be able to read. Now that we are done with the reading part of it, how about the writing part of it? Teachers have many doubts. Before thinking about writing, Many teachers have this complaint that my child is not able to identify the letters, though I have given him lot of practice. The child is able to write the letter sometimes. That is, if you write letter A or letter B on the board, the child is able to look at that letter and copy it. The child is not able to identify the letters. Now, let us first look at this part of it. Where exactly does the problem lie? Why is it that the child is not able to identify the letters? Okay, when we are talking about identification, we need to be sure about two things. First thing is the visual discrimination part. If the child has not yet developed the visual discrimination skills, the child will not be able to differentiate between letters and he will not be able to identify the letter. Let me explain. Now, if a child is not able to differentiate between an apple and a tomato, the child will not be able to differentiate between letters E and F. The child will not be able to differentiate between letters O and Q, letters P or number 9, etc. How do we develop these visual discrimination skills in children? Made a few cards. Now, this is an odd one out card. The child has to look for the pumpkin that looks different and clip it. So the child starts observing closely. Here, if you see, this pumpkin is different. So the child is supposed to clip that. Similarly, this. Okay. So this is nothing but a mirror image. You can call this a mirror image wherein this is turned. Okay. Here, change in color, whether the child is able to identify change in color or not. Here, everything is the same, but here if you see, this is cut. So there's a minute small difference. This is called inversion. Now, where exactly do we see inversions is letter P and B. Letter P and B is an example of inversion. So here the child should be able to differentiate between the inversions. Only then the child will be able to identify the letter. Here again, these are examples of orientation, different orientation. Everything looks the same. This is placed in a different orientation. Okay, so we have to give more and more visual discrimination exercises to the children. We have given one such activity in this book, page number 76, I guess. Yeah, page number 76. Here, the child is able to identify the odd one out of this. Then the child is good to go with the identification part. The child has already developed his visual discrimination skills. Right. Now, is it just the visual discrimination skills that matter? What also matters is when you're introducing a letter to a child, never introduce it in the letter chart or the alphabet chart. Now, on one such alphabet chart, if you point at one particular letter and say this is B, the child does not understand that you are referring to this particular symbol. The child just thinks that on the same chart you are just moving your finger randomly and you are saying A, B, C, D. And one fine day when you ask the child to go and identify B, the child also does the same thing. He keeps moving his finger across, but he actually does not know which individual symbol means B. Okay, so you have to introduce the letters in the form of flashcards only. Now, coming to auditory discrimination. Now, this has become a norm to introduce letters to children through the alphabet rhyme. That says A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z, sugar on your bread. If you don't want it, better go to bed. Okay, now, all of us know this rhyme. Just concentrate. When you're singing it as LMNOP. The child does not understand that you are referring to L, M, N, O and P separately. The child thinks LMNOP is a word, complete word, right? So while you're singing, before singing a rhyme, you have to introduce the sequence to the children as L, M, N, O, P. There's another problem with the auditory part. When teacher is actually introducing the letters to the children, most of the teachers, they say yum, yan, yal. Now, one fine day when the child is asked to identify M or N, everything sounds the same. So the child is again confused. So in order to develop auditory discrimination in children, the teacher first has to be clear while she is sounding out the letters. Now this is about the visual discrimination and auditory discrimination, and once this is done, once you know that the child is able to identify the letters, we go with the writing part. Why is it that many children do not like writing? The reason being very simple. They are not yet ready to hold a pencil or a writing tool and start writing. So writing is a very complex process that involves a coordinated movement of the shoulder muscle, the arm, the elbow, the wrist, the fist, and then the fingers. So all these muscles should have been developed in the child in order to be able to hold a pencil or a writing tool properly and form a particular letter shape. Right. Now, for example, if a child's shoulder is not yet formed or it's not yet ready to hold a writing tool, you would come to know by looking at the child would always like to lie on his chest like this on the floor, and he would love to scribble. Right. So that is an indication that the child's shoulder muscles have not yet developed, and for such children you give more and more scribbling practice on vertical surfaces, probably on a blackboard. You just give a white chalk to the child and you ask the child to scribble, and when the child starts moving, this is the muscle that is being exercised, and this is the muscle that would develop first. And when it comes to the elbow, if you would have seen children putting their entire elbow on the desk like this, and when they have to move while writing, if the child is moving the entire elbow, that means the child needs support here and his elbow has not yet developed. Similarly, the wrist, if the child has no problem forming letters like A and E, F, etc., but when he has to make a curve, the child is having a difficulty. That means his wrist has not yet developed properly, and you need to give him different activities that would result in development of the wrist muscles, and similarly the fingers. Now, what are the activities that would help develop these muscles is what we are going to look at now. For shoulders, yes, as I told you, you can encourage children to write on vertical surfaces, and for the elbow, generally for Holi and all, children play with something called pichkari. Okay, so that is where they have to pull and push, or any pull and push, the movement kind of things that would help them develop their elbow muscles. And for the wrist part, you have rotating, turning knobs, or generally in self-help skills or the life skills that few Montessori schools do, they do squeezing of cloths, wet clothes, etc. So wherein that involves a lot of wrist movement, and also turning the locks, locking and unlocking the lock and key thing. And then when we are talking about fist development, you can give them activities like transferring water from one vessel to other vessel using sponges, etc. And then when we are talking about the tripod grip, you can give children the clothes clips that we use for drying clothes. You can give them activity. For example, in the same activity, you can ask the child to put a clip here, whichever one. Yeah, this is the odd one. So the child will bring that clip and he will actually use these three fingers to press it and then clip it. So he is strengthening these three fingers. That is nothing but these are the three fingers that are used in the tripod grip. This is a tripod grip. Or you can also ask the child, you can give children scissoring activities wherein the thumb and these two fingers are the ones that are involved, and you can just draw different patterns on papers and you can ask children to cut them. So this is also an excellent activity that will develop their grip. And finally, coming to the pencil grip, pencil is just these two fingers, and this would be the support. When you're writing, eventually the child will be using only these two fingers, and this would just be for useful for the support. So in order to develop pencil grip, you can just ask the child to turn pages or hold things just with these two fingers, etc. Now this is about the fine motor skills part. Now coming to the writing part, that is nothing but the formation part, we also need to make sure, right on the very day one, if you give a 4-lined page to the child and ask the child to form a letter there, the child will definitely have a difficulty. Now, all of us, when we would have learnt driving, the first thing that we would have done is probably start driving on an open ground. Okay, and if I were asked to drive on the highway, I would have definitely faced some problem, right? Similarly, you always give a open or a clean surface or plain surface for the child to form the letter. Now here, once a child is confidently able to form the letter, that is when you slowly ask the child to form the letter between these two lines. So you are giving size restriction to the child by giving 2 lines, and then eventually you can go to the 4-line approach. But what happens if initially itself you go for the 4-line approach, the child is actually worried with the formation, and with also the child has to concentrate whether he has to start on the red line and at the blue line, which red line, which blue line, etc., etc. So this is an approach that we can go for. And finally, the letter shape formation. So for the letter shape formation, we always go with waqt. Before the child is able to write, you have to make sure the child has developed his visual discrimination and is able to identify the letters. The child can say out the letter and is also able to identify the letter when you say out the name of the letter. And kinesthetic is movement with your entire body or with your hand. For example, air tracing. S, if somebody is asking me to trace S, or A or B, if I am able to trace it in the air, or I am able to walk on that particular letter shape, etc. And finally, tactile. Tactile is wherein the child is made to trace with these 2 fingers on sandpaper letters. So for example, letter A is given, so the child takes these 2 fingers and moves his fingers on the letter shape A.
Now we are going to answer a few questions that most of the teachers have. That is, why should we teach the alphabet sequence A to Z? Why does my child have difficulty in identifying the letters? Why do we have 2 forms of letters, that is uppercase and lowercase? How do I teach my child writing? Should uppercase letters be taught first or lowercase? Let us first look at the question, how do I teach my child writing? So most of the teachers find that most of the children are comfortable in the oral part, they're comfortable understanding, they're comfortable answering questions, but when it comes to written part, they're not really comfortable holding a pencil, or they often complain that their fingers are paining. Let us see why this happens. Now this is a picture that shows physical development in children. If you look at the first picture shows the direction of physical development. It starts at the head and it proceeds towards the toes. This is called cephalocaudal development. Okay, so that the muscle development starts at the head first and it proceeds towards the toes. If you look at the second picture, the picture B, you can see that the physical development or the strengthening of muscles start from inside and they go towards the outside. That is, they start in the middle and proceed towards the fingers. This is called proximo-distal development. So, for a child to be able to hold a writing tool and start writing, his shoulder muscles should be strengthened first, followed by the elbow, the wrist, the fist, and finally the fingers. This picture has x-rays of two hands. The first one is the x-ray of a child's hand. The second one is the x-ray of an adult's hand. Now, if you compare both the x-rays, you can clearly see that the x-ray of a child's hand shows that there are many gaps between the finger bones and they are not connected properly. And even at the wrist part, the development is not proper in comparison with that of the adult's hand. Now this is exactly why we talk about fine motor skill development. Only when proper muscle development takes place in the hands will the child be able to hold a writing tool and manipulate the writing tool. Now let me answer the second question, that why should we teach the alphabet order? Why is it important to teach ABC order to the children? Before discussing why is it important to teach children the ABC order, let us first discuss the definition of the alphabet. Alphabet is the complete set of letters or symbols in a fixed order. So, here I have emphasized the words fixed order. If a child does not know the entire sequence of the alphabet, that means the child has not learned the alphabet at all. And the second point is, if you look at the name alphabet, the name is coined from the first two letters, alpha and beta. Alpha indicates letter A and beta indicates letter B in Greek. So the name itself suggests that alphabet is supposed to be in that particular sequence. The third reason is that the same letter script or the same fixed order of letters is used in different languages. For example, even if somebody has to learn a language like French, the same set of letters in the same sequence are taught first. So this would become easier for a child who knows the alphabet in English to learn the alphabet in any other language. Initially, letters were written only in capitals, as these letters were written with the help of a chisel and hammer in olden days. But with the invention of free-flowing ink quills, the speed of writing has improved resulting in more rounded letters, and that is how the lowercase letters were formed from the uppercase letters only. Now it's time to answer the question, why are the capital letters named as uppercase letters and the small letters are known as the lowercase letters? When printing was invented, the letters were placed in cases. Just because the capitals were less frequently used, they were placed in the uppercase, and as lowercase letters were used more frequently, they were put in a lowercase closer to the typesetter. Hence, they got the name uppercase letters and lowercase letters. Now it's time to answer the most important question that teachers have on their mind. Should we teach the uppercase letters first or the lowercase letters first, or both the uppercase and lowercase letters should be taught simultaneously? Well, the reason most of the schools teach uppercase letters first is because uppercase letters do not have any letter reversals. They have just one letter inversion, that is inversion of the capital letter M and the capital W. So both of these letters are inverted form of each other. While when we are talking about reversals, there are absolutely no reversals in case of uppercase. But when we look at the lowercase letters, small letter b and the lowercase letter d are letter reversals of each other, or we can say mirror images of each other. Similarly, small letter J and small letter L. Children also get confused between the small letter V and the X and the small letter Y and small letter G, though there are no inversions or reversals. So there is the probability of a child getting confused is very high in case of lowercase letters. That is the reason most of the schools introduce uppercase letters, because for a child to develop visual takes at least child will be able to uppercase letters. Take in children 3. In case of math,